How do you assess the situation as we're talking right now?
Thank you for having me. We are basically in an uncharted territory right now because there are so many unknowns before our eyes. What we know is that the protests in Iran has gained a serious momentum. What we know is that Iranian people are fed up with the Islamic Republic. They want the regime to go. They are very much determined, and they think that the regime is at its weakest position in the past years. And if there is a time that they can, basically push the government out and basically bring them to their knees, this is the time. So that's the situation. At the same time, we have a government that is brutal, that has a very organized repression machinery. They have a very strong social base, and military base, religious base, and they have been, training for such events. The question is whether we see a rupture within the establishment after the killings of hundreds of people on the streets, whether we have defections, whether we see a crack within the regime. Because if you don't see a crack within the regime, and they continue killing people on the streets because there's no way out for them. There is no way out for the Islamic Republic people. There is no way out for Revolutionary Guards commanders or their base. So they're gonna fight. So that's why a defection and rupture is very important. Over the past few days, over the past 2 weeks, we haven't seen that. But it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. We have to see what happens in the next few days. And I think external factors also could play an important role. We have to see what President Trump is trying to do. From what he said last night, I think a sort of military operation, military action, military intervention is very imminent.
But would that help the uprising, or would it hinder it?
That's a very good question. Whether, first of all, the U.S. is not going to, the idea that you think that the U.S., not you, but, the idea that one might think that the U.S. Is going to attack Iran because they are really compassionate about the plights of Iranians on the street is very naive. The U.S. has, democracy or a democratic Iran, is something that Iranians are looking for, and they have been fighting for decades. But the U.S. has other interests too. The U.S. has a long list of grievances with Iran, from Iran's nuclear program to Iran's missiles program, Iran's proxy groups in the region, terrorism, and many, many other issues. So now, if all these elements converge and come together at the same time, that the U.S. government understands and see that if they intervene and support the protests or support the unrest in Iran, it might lead to the collapse of the regime. And in result, there would be a transition to a more democratic country, and they get rid of the Ayatollahs in Iran. And Iran does not turn to Iraq 2005 and Syria 2016, there is a chance for that. But we don't know the scale of the military action by the U.S., how it's going to play out, what's the purpose of it, whether it would be coordinated with Iranians, like what they did with Soleimani's killing. In 2020, they killed Soleimani, sent a message to Iran that this is a one-off, we are not coming after you, but if you retaliate, we come after you hard. So Iranians didn't come after U.S. hard. So that was it. We don't know if that's the case for this time around. But we are in an uncharted territory. For every option, there are so many risks. For the U.S., the risk is high. Because the tolerance for the U.S. For fatality or losing, for example, if one American soldier dies during this operation, it's going to be very, very costly. But for the Iranian government, their tolerance for pain is much higher.
Well, while you're talking, I'm just looking at a video here from 2CTV, which shows a massive fire in the city of Isfahan, which I don't know how big that city is, but I mean, and there's a major demonstration from people watching this. Just finally, before I have to let you go, there's been a lot of talk about whether the Crown Prince should return as even if only as a sort of temporary ruler of Iran if the regime does fall. How popular is Reza Pahlavi? Because, I mean, looking at a lot of the posters that are shown in the protests, it seems as though there is quite a lot of people that want him to come back. But are the opposition forces united in wanting that?
Absolutely, that we are seeing the name of Reza Pahlavi being mentioned in many of the protests, many of the chants throughout the country. That has been a trend which has been actually accelerated over the past few days. But the opposition in Iran is not unified. It's fractured. They spend so much time on fighting with each other and basically discrediting each other. When it comes to the transition and the post-Islamic Republic, the options, are out of control because once the Islamic Republic is not in place, other actors, other players would be in the game, and we are not going to have a one-player game in that period. So remember, like the case of Iraq, Ahmad Chalabi was one of the major candidates, or the people thought after the collapse of the Saddam Hussein regime, he would seize the power. What happened to Ahmad Chalabi? What happened to Kanan Makkiya, Mozar Shokat, all these opposition leaders that were like at the forefront of invasion, they disappeared. So it's going to be up to the Iranian people to decide what type of government they want, what type of leader they want, and hopefully that goes through a democratic process. But yes, of course, Reza Pahlavi, I hope that we have it one day in Iran. Everybody who is has a chance to be on the ballot.
I'm of the age now where I can say that I've been to Iran once when I was a baby, but not since, and that's just because of what's happened. I was about 9 when the revolution happened. Over that period of time, obviously with connections of families, we've known a lot of what's gone on. It's never been good. Originally it was just playing to the people, giving them guns and lies. And now, after all this time, with everything that's happened, the people and the newer generation are just fed up. And this is why, we really, speaking for myself, really just feel this is the time. This is the new revolution to bring back, to get rid of the current regime. In fact, at New Year's Eve, I actually said to my daughter, maybe this time next year we could be celebrating in Iran, because we feel that strongly. That
wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. It's the one thing gets me very emotional thinking about that.
The problem is, though, Daniel, that. Look, I think the overwhelming majority of people listening to us talking would hope that would happen. But experience tells us, and we do have to learn from history in these things, that the aftermath of an uprising or a revolution, call it what you will, is often just as bloody as what preceded it. And I think that is where the international community has got to tread very carefully. And that I hope that comes into to Donald Trump's thoughts when he's deciding what to do, because the worst thing that could happen now is for action to be taken, presumably by the United States, that would be counterproductive. What do you hope Donald Trump does?
It's a very difficult one. I think the only people who are for the Islamic State are those who work for it, those who make money from it, and those who are incredibly religious and fall for anything they say. Everyone else who's within the Iran sphere, as I call it, would be wanting change. They want change, and I think in terms of revolution, in terms of the aftermath, I think it won't be as bad as politicians think. I think the long term will be a greater good. There are many issues. Iran, for instance, manufactures drones that Russia are using to attack Ukraine. there's the oil aspect, there's the illegal immigration aspect. There are many things, and I actually think it will bring overall stability to the region. In terms of what Donald Trump should do, I think it has to be something. We were all hoping in the 12-day war with Israel that they would hit hard, that it was sort of, we were willing it. We thought that was the time. But now with the people are in the streets because of the words that Donald Trump has said, they feel even more empowered. And I don't think it will die down. It can't die down.
Well, it shows absolutely no sign of dying down so far. Daniel, thank you very much. Great call. Let's go to Ali, who's a first-time caller in Birmingham. Ali, good evening.
Hi, Ian. Good evening.
Hi, what would you like to say?
A few things I wanted to actually cover. So I think it's important to highlight that this is a revolution going on in Iran under the leadership of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. It's because of his call that people are actually on the streets in millions. And it was off the back of his call that people came out in response. But also the fact that Donald Trump suggested that he's not going to let the Iranian people get killed gave the boost to the Iranian people to actually come out in millions. But now they're getting killed, obviously, because they are people standing without anything. They're empty-handed people standing against a militia that it's armed to teeth. So it's almost impossible to stand against this tyranny and not getting killed in tens of thousands and if not millions. So if this carries on for too long, the devastation is going to be unbearable.
But there are a lot of people in this country, and we've got a text here from Gavin, who's one of them, who says, let's hope Donald Trump does nothing, leave them to sort it out themselves. Now, I suspect if we did a poll, it would show that the majority of British people would probably agree with Gavin there, and that the United States, Britain, nobody should intervene and let Iran sort it out for themselves. But the problem is that all of these brave people who are going out on the streets night after night, risking their lives, they are going to feel very let down if nothing happens, aren't they?
Absolutely, there is that. But also, if we were to put such poll out, it's important to lay the facts right and put it out in front of people so they understand what this brutal Islamic Republic regime has done, not only to Iranians in Iran, but to the entire world. Millions of people outside Iran are killed because of the IRGC. The IRGC that the UK government doesn't have the spine to designate as a terrorist organization. I mean, what more an organization needs to do for it to be designated as a terrorist organization? So I think it's really important for the people of the world to understand the facts before such poll is put forward to them, because I understand the rest of the world doesn't really need to get involved in, some other locations in the world. It costs them, people can die in the process. There's all of that, and I appreciate that. But if we put the facts right, such as Iran is behind arming Russia to fight Ukraine. So Ukrainians are actually dying because of the Islamic Republic in Iran. People are dying in Palestine. People are dying in Lebanon. People are dying in Africa, in so many places because of this Islamic Republic regime. So cracking down on this regime is going to be a game changer for the entire world. So if we put the facts out correctly and then put the poll in front of the people, I think the answer is going to be different.